My name is Brian During, the Education Director here at the National Museum of the Pacific War. I've been in that role for about 3.5 weeks now. I was never in the military. I was active duty classroom for 31 years, 8th grade American history. One of the things that I started with my students at Boerne Middle School North was the National History Day. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard about it, but it's a great contest for young people to be involved in. They started this project in late September, early October. They've done a tremendous amount of research. They participated in the San Antonio Regional History Fair where they were first place in group performance. They were also named Most Outstanding Entry in the San Antonio Regional History Fair, and they're going to be advancing to the state contest, which is in Austin at the end of this month. Their performance is based on the Army nurses that were stationed in the Philippines at the start of World War II, who found themselves trapped and eventually captured by the Japanese and held captive for 3 years. And they're going to tell these ladies' stories in just under 10 minutes. And I want to thank y'all so much. And right after they finish their performance, the judges in the contest ask them questions. And so I'm going to throw a couple questions at them, and we'll allow the audience to ask questions as well, because this is really good practice for these young people. So once again, thank y'all for coming, and now I'm going to turn it over to y'all.
Is everyone ready? The title of our performance is The Angels of Bataan, Taking a Stand During World War II.
Florence Nightingale, Claire Barton, and Dorothy Dix. These are a few names of famous nurses in history. What about a lesser-known group of courageous female nurses that later became known as the Angels of Bataan in World War II?
77 Army and Navy nurses under the command of Captain Maud Davison were taken prisoner by the Japanese and held captive for 3 years. It was the leadership of Davison and her second-in-command, Josephine Nesbitt, that allowed these nurses to take a stand under the harshest of conditions to protect the hope, health, and lives of the soldiers and civilians they treated. This is their story.
Why didn't your dad want you to become an army nurse?
He was worried about a potential war with Japan. I told him the talk of war was all rumors. There was no way a tiny nation like Japan would attack the United States. How about you?
No trouble at all. I told my parents that all I needed to pack for paradise was a nursing uniform, a bathing suit, and an evening gown.
Well, we better finish getting ready. Don't want to keep those handsome officers waiting.
These nurses, stationed in the Philippines, would soon find their paradise turned into a fiery hell when Imperial Japanese forces launched their surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, and on the Philippines on December 8th.
The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. They destroyed the Pacific Fleet. There are mass casualties. Our close friends in Hawaii could be dead.
Girls, calm down. You can't weep and wail over the news about Pearl Harbor. You need to report to the hospital. They're going to issue gas masks and helmets in case of an attack. And get some sleep. You'll have to work tonight.
The nurses didn't know it, but at 8:20 a.m. on December 8, 1941, we attacked American military posts and airfields in the Philippines.
The Japanese attacked American bases throughout the Philippines, and the nurses, they began treating the wounded.
Everywhere we looked lay the wounded and the dead. We are overwhelmed, but we will continue to take a stand, to fight through these gruesome circumstances and do our jobs. We went from handing out aspirin and cold compresses to walking among the dead. Now, we are giving morphine injections to kill the pain and quiet the screaming. We are forced to decide who might live and who might die.
Ladies, I just received this message from Captain Maud Davison. We are to evacuate Manila and set up field hospitals on the Bataan Peninsula. She's replacing our standard nursing dress with this. Olive jabs, one size fits all.
On the Bataan Peninsula, the nurses helped set up 2 field hospitals where they thought the dense jungle would hide them from our planes. They soon learned that the jungle presented new dangers far worse than bombs and bayonets.
These jungle hospitals are a far cry from what we had in Manila, primitive to say the least. There are only a few beds. Most of the wounded are lying on blankets on the ground. The flies and mosquitoes are spreading dysentery and malaria like wildfire. We're on half rations and are almost out of medicine. I don't know how much more I can take.
Sal, get a grip on yourself. We need you. Our boys need you.
Josie, it seems the enemy is getting stronger as we get weaker. Malaria cases have doubled, and diseases are killing more of our boys than bullets and bombs. Many of the nurses are sick themselves, yet they continue to take a can-do stance and find ways to assist.
Yes, sir. Maud Davison and I are very proud of our nurses, as sick as some of us are. They continue to do their job, giving up their own food or medicine to help a soldier. They are truly honoring the nurses' code by treating the wounded, even the enemy.
Josie, General King is going to surrender Bataan tomorrow. You're being ordered to evacuate and report to the Malenta Tunnel on Corregidor. Trucks carrying only American nurses leave in 2 hours.
Josie did not take this news very well, and she knew her nurses wouldn't either. She had made the Army her life, and now she was willing to risk court-martial to take a stand against a direct war.
Sir, for the first time in my career, I must disobey the chain of command. It will be agonizing enough walking away from our own sick and wounded troops. But unless you allow my Filipino nurses to come, I am staying right here.
Come with me. I'll call headquarters and see if we can get them on the trucks. I know Filipino nurses call you Mama Josie.
Permission was granted to evacuate all of the nurses, Americans and Filipinos, to Corregidor. It was heart-wrenching enough to leave the sick and wounded on Bataan. It would haunt many of them for the rest of their lives.
This tunnel is no haven. It's just a different kind of hell. Almost out of food, water, and medical supplies. And the stench of sweat, blood, and decomposing flesh makes me want to gag.
It's about to get worse. I overheard an officer say that General Wainwright was going to surrender tomorrow.
At least we got all 69 Army nurses and civilian women to sign this bed sheet. It'll be a record left behind in case we all disappear after the surrender.
On May 6, 1942, American forces on Corregidor surrendered to the Japanese. Prior to the American flag being taken down, Captain Maud Davison addressed her nurses, who were the first women in combat and about to become the first female prisoners.
Ladies, listen up! Order number 1. At all times, you're to wear your khaki uniforms and carry your gas masks. Order number 2. You're to make sure your Red Cross armbands are always on your sleeves. Finally, do not get caught wandering alone. If you do your job, you just might make it home.
The sight of these American women in uniform puzzled us. We Japanese believe that war is a test of manhood and women have no business being a part of it. We soon sent the nurses to an internment camp in Manila named Santo Tomas. There, we would take very good care of them.
Not all of the nurses were happy about being in prison with civilians and having to treat them. They demanded to be sent to a military prison. Maud would have none of this, and she took a strong stand against these nurses and reminded them of their Nightingale pledge.
You are members of the United States Army. Your country depends on you. And like it or not, you are under my command. You will follow my orders.
At first, conditions were good in the internment camp, but as the war turned in favor of the U.S., things changed.
If you want more food, you can grow it yourselves.
Give us seeds and supplies and we will.
This is not a problem of the Imperial Japanese Army.
As food and supplies dwindled, the nurses' focus had switched from the battlefield triage to battle of starvation.
There was little difference between our health and the health of our patients. Yet we continue to report to work because we have no choice. Our average weight loss over the course of our captivity was 32 pounds. Of the 14,000 civilians imprisoned at Santo Tomas, 1,400 people died.
By January 4th, 1945, we were still only receiving 500 calories a day. Some of us had a bet going on who would arrive at the gates of Santo Tomas first. The U.S. Army, the Marines, or the vultures.
On February 3rd, 1945, the U.S. Army crashed through the gates at Santo Tomas. The nurses were liberated.
As I watched an American flag being raised, I remembered what Maud had told us. Stick to your jobs, and you just might make it home.
Over 59,000 nurses served during World War II. Of those, 201 nurses died, 16 to the hands of enemy action. However, all 66 American Army nurses made it home alive from Bataan, despite desperate conditions during their 3 years of captivity.
It was the leadership of Maud Davison and Josephine Nesbitt that sustained these nurses and many of their patients. We are certain that the 11,000 Army nurses that serve today look back with pride at the stand that was taken by the Angels of Bataan.
He is all right. Y'all did good thing. Questions at you. I'm very proud of you. Why did y'all choose this particular topic?
Well,
How'd you hear about it?
a local historian gave us a book about it and suggested it to us. And the more we researched it, the more we thought that this topic should be our topic for NHD this year. And it really did fit the theme. And not many people have heard about it. And we figured that we should maybe shed some light on it. And it would be an interesting topic for them to hear. And it just really exhibited taking a stand in history.
You know, I've looked at your paperwork and you have an extensive bibliography. What would you say was one of your best sources and why?
I would say that one of our best sources was Miss Elizabeth Norman's book, We Band of Angels, as well as our personal interview with her, because it just gave us, she had a lot of research that just gave us a lot of firsthand accounts of what the women really went through in the internment camps, and just everything from small details like what they ate to what kind of consequences they had or like effects from when they returned.
Her view on this topic was a lot different than all of our other websites and books and all our other sources, because instead of giving us just facts and details, her writing style makes it look like you were actually there, and it's very realistic and easy to picture in your mind, lots of imagery and stuff.
I see that you have someone named Colonel Vance in your paperwork. How does she contribute to your presentation here?
Colonel Vane?
Vane, I'm sorry. I read it wrong.
Miss Colonel Vane is the head of nursing at the VA hospital in Kerrville, and so she has done a lot of research on these women because it's part of her department. And so she helped us a lot with a lot of the facts and like going through our script and helping us to fine-tune everything and make sure that we had everything historically accurate so that we could give the most accurate performance for our audiences.
Where did y'all get your costuming?
We got our costumes from a local historian, and she had authentic costumes that were actually used. These are from a separate historian, but our white nurses' uniforms were actually used in Bataan, and she's a collector of she just has this house full of all these authentic costumes, and she was very helpful.
How did y'all decide who was going to play Maud and who was going to play Josie?
Well, when we were going through the script, we kind of initially just kind of said, okay, you play this one, I'll play this one. But the more that we went into it, we found that I kind of fit Maud better because I like to scream and stuff like that.
Nesbit in reality was a little bit more laid back, and she was younger, and she didn't know as much.
How did you two guys decide who was going to play the Japanese?
You want me to give you what I want to say? Or well, there might have been more lines for the Japanese soldier.
Do not answer it that way.
Why don't you like Japanese?
Yeah.
We thought that Tanner would play the better American soldier because he's bigger and stronger than I am.
Devin, what was something, when you conducted your research, tell me something that really surprised you or shocked you.
Something that really surprised me whenever we were researching was the fact that all of the nurses made it back to the United States alive, even though they had harsh conditions in the jungle hospitals and the internment camps.
Ken, was there anything that really surprised you or you found very interesting?
Well, kind of like what you said, just how much they have to go through to be alive and come back, and kind of like help everybody, not just the American soldiers. So
I was really surprised that the nurses were very adaptive and they were able to just take action. They went into this situation, they went into the Philippines with no combat training, no triage training, absolutely nothing. And they thought they were just going to be there and just have a good time. But when combat started, they were able to rise to the occasion, and they actually invented triage techniques that are still used today.
I'd have to agree with what Anna says. They had the training of less than a school nurse today, and then suddenly they were bombed, and I was very surprised with how they were immediately able to perform triage and developing all these new techniques and keeping as many men as they could alive. Or, for instance, they knitted a lot of their articles of clothing in Santo Tomas, like socks and underwear and stuff, because they really had to adapt to their surroundings, and if they didn't have that kind of skill, they wouldn't have lived.
Something about cold cream. What did they use cold cream for?
So when they were in the jungle hospitals, they were running very, very low on food, dangerously low. And they were kind of aware that the men were going to be captured. They didn't know that they were going on to the death march, but they knew something bad was going to happen and they were going to be short on food. So what these women did was they fried weeds and flowers in cold cream, like the makeup stuff. And they would feed it to the men to give them as much calories as they could so they could survive as long as possible under the hands of the Japanese.
Did y'all happen to experiment with that just to see if it worked?